You loved Brat Summer. Welcome to Eusexua Winter or Eusexua Early Spring. That was going to be my framing device and my hook to get you into this video on FKA Twigs. But don't worry, I abandoned it. I'll barely even have said it once. The comparison did make sense to me initially. My first pass listening to the album, I thought, okay, it's a very sexy album. It feels very zeitgeisty, of the spirit of the time. It's a lot about a liberated woman, a lot of dancing in a time of cultural mourning, kind of dirty, erotic, sleazy, retro in some ways to a previous era of female-driven pop, this elevated sleaze, all that. And this all made sense to me the first time that I listened to it when I was cooking. So I make pancakes every Sunday for my family, and I was making pancakes, and I was just listening to the album, and I was just kind of dancing to it. I wasn't listening to like the lyrics very carefully. I was just dancing, flipping pancakes, etc. That's a very superficial reading. And I won't have just said that comparison because it doesn't really hold water. The thing is, though, is that this album is an album which really requires and begs for you to pay attention to what is called in literary circles paratext, which is a fancy word to say anything around the text. Okay, a text can be anything. It can be a book, it can be a movie, it can be an album. We're talking like album covers, liner notes, any information, any other information besides the text itself given by the author or by somebody behind its creation. That is the paratext. And this album, from its title to its cover to every single thing about it, demands that you understand its paratext. So let's get to it, huh? Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor. I'm way behind on my schedule here. I had both my daughters, I have 3 daughters, but the 2 young ones, the 6-month-old and the 2-year-old, they both got colds, and so I was sleeping for like 4 hours, like sitting up against a wall. So it's been rough, but this album's been fun because the whole time I've been going through these very weird, sniffly, snowy, wintry times. I had this kind of bubbly album going here. And let's just start off with the title, Eusexua. How's it pronounced? Eusexua? I think it's Eusexua. Immediately, I just thought it reminded me of what I thought was a fake word. So when I was growing up, Madonna came out with an album called Erotica. And I remember thinking that she made the word up. Now, it turns out the word erotica exists, and it has existed for a long time. But it also reminds me, and I don't think you're ready for this conversation, of Smokey Robinson's album, Gasms. So Smokey Robinson, I have an autographed framed print of Smokey Robinson in my basement. I think he's one of the greatest musicians of all time. Still, you don't want an 84-year-old guy singing about gasms. It's just, it was a very uncomfortable listen. His genius did shine through at times, but this kind of, like creating new words to describe something that is both sexual and musical at the same time. My initial take on Eusexua was that he was about Europe. Like I thought of like Zooropa by U2, I thought of as being European Union, sex, United Artists. United Artists was a film company started by Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, D.W. Griffith, and Douglas Fairbanks all the way back in like 1919 to make sure that artists had some control over how movies were being made. But that isn't what it is. And if you've watched any interviews, read any interviews, you know that FKA Twigs is begging you to listen to her describe what this means. Okay, some artists, they're just cool. They're like, the work will speak to you or it won't. I have no determination. It is now in your ears and your hands, dear listener. FKA Twigs is like, you better understand what I mean by Eusexua. She describes it as a moment of momentary transcendence, a state of being. And here I quote from an interview, Eusexua is a feeling, at least in the English dictionary, there is no word for it. You know that feeling when you've been out all night and you lose 7 hours to music and you look at your phone and think, oh my gosh, it's 8 a.m. in the morning? Side note. No, I don't know that feeling. Okay. And it's because you've been in a state of eusexua. It's also when you meet somebody that you really like and you just kiss all night and you kiss for all hours, you lose time. It's like your bodies become one and you're just kind of an amoeba. And it's like that meditative, like amazing physical experience. For me, it's also a moment before I get a really good idea of pure clarity, like when everything moves out of the way and everything in your mind is completely blank and your mind is elevated. That's eusexua. and that is the only place I want to be now. That's when I feel like I'm most myself, when everything's completely clear and you say, you know what I've learned over the past few years is just removing anything that stops you from being Eusexua. So to be good faith criticism, because I like this album, I like this artist. This is not a cohesive view. Okay, I mean, it's not that's not cohesive. There's two things in here. It's one word describing two things. It sounds like she's describing euphoria, the euphoria of kissing somebody new, which is a great feeling, the euphoria of dancing all the time. Maybe it's even three things. Then at a certain point, it seems as though she's describing flow state, like the point where everything just moves and you're totally blank and you're elevated. Sometimes if I'm giving a good talk, if I'm giving a good lesson, if I'm doing a good video even, I will get into a state of that flow state, which is whatever, like when great athletes are playing, Larry Bird is shooting 3-pointers or whatever, Michael Jordan or anybody who's in the flow of what they're doing, they reach that state. So it sounds like she's describing that as well. And then there's this sense of clarity, which is interesting because it's like, I think what we can boil it down to, and this is just me, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments. Feel free to tell me, like, Sky, you're underestimating her. I don't think I'm underestimating her. I'm trying to take her ideas seriously and critique it from that perspective. It's like, it's feeling very good. I think that's what she's trying to describe. And I don't think that that's knocking it, because feeling very good is pretty rare. If you're lucky, you feel pretty good most of the time. This describing three different ways of feeling very good. When you're in a state of flow, when you are like enjoying your body and your life and being out as much as possible, and then when you feel clear. They're three very different states, which she's describing with one word, and why not? Why not? It means you can be Eusexua like a lot. Like given these definitions, I've been Eusexua a lot, tons of times. I might be being Eusexua right now. I don't know. So, I've watched some interviews. She describes it as being like an 11-step program. I mean, she's really into it, But what she really emphasizes is that it's somatic healing. So this is interesting because I did a lot of therapy. That's the sound of my 6-month-old probably having the boogers removed from her nose with this little machine that we have. She does not like that. I've been in a lot of therapy, well over a decade of therapy. And one thing that my therapist really believed in was in the body and where you carry stress and how your body, I really do carry stress right here. Like, it's weird. Whenever I'm stressed out, like I feel it. And one of the easiest things you can do to be a better, less stressed person is just stop and say, what is my body telling me? He used to do this exercise with me where he'd seriously just like have me sit in a chair and he would just ask me like, what is your little toe telling your big toe? I'd be like, you dumb idiot. I don't even know why you got a doctorate. I do have a little toe, though. I never thought about that fact that I have I have 2 little toes, and they're, what is that space in between those little toes? Anyways, he was very interested in trying to get me to understand the relationship between the body and the mind, and in the idea, because somatic healing is this theory that you can heal your mind through your body. Some of it comes across to me as fake, sort of like some of it comes across to me like people who don't want to go to mind therapy and sort of get around it by trying to do body therapy. But that's an ungenerous reading. I imagine that it's very useful and it's better than nothing. It's probably not better than doing both, but it's better than nothing. So anyways, I'm thinking a lot about this. I had this whole weird experience. I did this thing called EMDR, where you hold on to these little like sticks and they vibrate and someone asks you to talk about traumatic memories that you have. And I swear, I thought I was going to electrocute myself because I was crying, like just doing this thing. I was just, these tears. I was just like, anyways, I never went back. It was too intense. So I do understand this concept of the body and the mind, and that there's something in Eusexua that is connected to the belief that you can access something better in your mind through your body. And I think it's important that she's a dancer. I don't know if she's like an actual dancer. I don't know her biography. I don't know if she started off as a dancer, but I've watched a lot of videos. She's a dancer. She moves like a dancer. She has a dancer's body. She is a dancer. And this album is very concerned with her body. The album cover is her face looking straight on. All the material around it is her body contorting and moving and dancing. Her body is a very crucial part of the paratext of this album. Like, you cannot listen to this album without having her body in your mind. That sounds creepy. I don't mean it in a creepy way. I mean it in a complimentary way, because I think that's what she's trying to do. And you know, like the way that she moves, the way that she looks, it's always, I think, intentionally a little alien, a little unsettling, a little maybe even horrific. And I think that's on purpose. And always a little raunchy. You know, it's funny because the main time that I listened to this, so I started work on Monday and I have a little bit of space in my schedule in between when I teach class and when I'm on an executive committee. Anyways, so I'm sitting in my office and I'm listening to the album on my headphones and I'm reading the lyrics and I'm blushing like hell. I'm like, this is some hot stuff. Okay. Just, whoa, take it easy. You know, people are coming by, knocking on the door. Hey, Sky, Happy New Year. Nothing. No. What? Hi. Yeah. No, good. Yeah. No, the kids are sick at home. It's crazy. Yeah. You know, like, it's that kind of album. I mean, it's a really, really sensual album. And I mean that in the sense of, like, tactile. It makes you feel stuff in your body. And I mentioned Madonna before, and I think that there is this period of time that does need to be referenced, which was the erotica/sex period of Madonna in, I guess, the late 80s, early 90s. So the album Erotica, I don't have it here. I do have a copy of Bedtime Stories. I don't know why I don't own a copy of Erotica. I like that album quite a bit. Even at the time, like, musically, it was like, oh my God, she's lost her mind. She's making Eurotrash music. What is this? Why has she stopped making pop? I mean, it was the lead single, erotic, perchance, I love my body, erotic. You know, it was not like a pop hit. It was like electronic dance, you know? And at the same time she came out with that album, and this is the memory of a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old, okay? So if these things were like months apart, I don't know. I'm just telling you that at a very sensitive time of my life, this great sex symbol came out with these things, and it felt to me like they were at the same time, and they were taboo, and they were legitimately pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable in mass culture. It was legitimately upsetting, uptight, puritanical American society, okay? Madonna has done that many, many times, way before she kissed Drake, okay? And so she came out with this album, Erotica, which was breathy and erotic, and then she came out with a book called Sex. And both of them helped to popularize S&M in America, helped to mainstream S&M in America, sadomasochism, you know, whips and chains, all that stuff. They were all very queer friendly. And the book Sex actually has a lot of explicit queer images in it. This is a book of legend, the thing you need to understand. So when this book came out, it was like, has anyone seen it? Does anyone know where it is? I heard it's really expensive. It was this whole mystery, because all that we knew as like 10 and 11-year-olds was that there's naked pictures of Madonna somewhere. Now, there were naked pictures of Madonna in a Penthouse magazine, and my friend down the street, his dad had that magazine, and we were all excited. And this is true. We went into his sock drawer, got the magazine, and he'd cut those pictures out. Life before the internet. We were so charming. So that was the mystery. And so, seriously, like this Eusexua thing, it reminded me so strongly of this period where Madonna successfully, ushered in an era in which the line between European-style dance music and American pop got mixed together. She did a huge service for that in the same way that FKA Twigs is doing that, even though I know she's British, right? But still, it's a global album. And depuritanizing American society through a kind of raunchy embrace of sex. So, I don't know. So I finally downloaded the book. You can find it on PDF. Some stuff in it is like not good. Some stuff of it is statutory You know how that word usually ends? Very uncomfortable. Not cool. Not cool, Madonna. But what's interesting is it's this huge statement about freedom and sex and all that. But just so you know, in case you like think about the '90s, and you think about how great it was. On the first page where she gives her introduction, there's about 100 words on the first page. 8 of them are about AIDS or condoms, because that was the period of time that we were on. So that's part of what made what Madonna did so fascinating, is we were in a time of forced Puritanism, Like there was no STD outbreaks in my college, like there are in most colleges these days, because we were all so afraid all the time. Anyways, all of that is to say, I think in a very interesting way, this album reminds me of that time. Musically, the album that reminds me of most is Ray of Light by Madonna, an album so nice, I bought it twice. I don't know why I have 2 copies of this album, actually, to be honest, but it's my favorite Madonna album, so that's good. But it has a lot of the similar musical feel. In the same way that Brat felt like Kesha, this feels like Ray of Light era Madonna. That makes sense as a parallel? Is that so evident that everyone's been saying it? Maybe it is. I do like, though, that FKA Twigs has a lot, like there's a real edge to her that's kind of gothy, and that's what I really like. Like at times her voice reminds me of, like, I don't know, Susie Sue, the way her voice can kind of soar. And one other thing I really like about this album that is maybe present on Brat as well, and I did not see in the Sex Book or the Erotica album, even though this album is largely proclaiming the values of kissing strangers and being with strangers and having ephemeral interactions with your body with other people, it does indicate a problem. There is a way to read this album that is about the problem with Eusexua. That the problem with Eusexua is that if you're chasing Eusexua too much, you might end up with a lack of real human connection. And that would be my criticism of Eusexua if it was not on this album, which is like, all these things are great. Staying up until 8 is great, and kissing strangers is great, and all that stuff is great. But there's a richness and a kind of happiness that you get, or a kind of contentedness, or a kind of warmth, a kind of joy, a kind of deep well-being that you get when you are really with somebody, when you are really with people, when you really have that kind of connection. And maybe if you're chasing Eusexua too much, you don't get that. Can you guess my favorite song? Tell me in the comments if you can guess my favorite song. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Smash the like bucket if you'd like. Subscribe. Leave a comment. You can join my Patreon. I ask my patrons if they'd like a shout out. So if you wish that you could be one of these people, sign up to my Patreon. You could be at any level. I ask for shout outs. When I don't forget, I ask for shout outs. We're talking Zach, Carsick, Kais Clemens, Mig Online, and Olivia, who got Mig Online into FKA Twigs, and Caden XCX. All right, so let's get to the album with the opening track, Eusexua. So it's a concept album, right? It's a concept album. Hey, it's 2 concept albums in a row. I just did the Gais Cavada, and now this. It is a concept album about whatever Eusexua is. She is trying to get this idea out there. She is trying to express it, and so it has to start off with a track called Eusexua. Just thump, 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 thump. Okay, I'm turning into Matthew McConaughey from Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, just the thump, thump, thump. I love the way it develops. It's for the club, it's for the raves, because there's that thing, right? Even though I've never been out until 8 o'clock in the morning and thinking it was 1 o'clock, because I've just never been to a rave. I'm sorry, I've never been. I would have gone to one, probably not. Actually, I probably wouldn't have. Youth was totally wasted on me. I was one of those guys who'd go and I'd stand on my own and I'd leave on my own and I'd go home and I'd cry and I'd want to die. And even though I was a human and I deserved to be loved just like anybody else, I thought I was too cool for that stuff. But this is great, and I love especially how her voice breaks and there's auto-tune. So it means that she's using the weakness of her voice to communicate, saying relative, right? She has a beautiful voice, but she's using moments of weakness in her voice to communicate an emotional rawness, while also using auto-tune when she does not want to add that. It's an amazing moment. These howling noises. Do you feel alone? Lost out at sea, you are not alone under the stars. Maybe trying to create some sense of connectiveness or togetherness in the state of Eusexua. Then we get to Girl Feels Good. This is really just where we're in super duper ray of light territory. Just spacey and cool. But I love this little guitar that comes in. I fear the man who finds himself lost in tales of war, delusions, or more. Beautiful boys, I wish you knew how precious you are. Your mother's sister, lover's heart is where there's healing. Approved. Excellent. I love it. I like this take. Patriarchy hurts men, right? That's a famous thing, which, patriarchy hurts men. It may seem as though they benefit from the system, but fundamentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, in all the ways that really matter, patriarchy hurts men. And so she's feeling bad for beautiful boys who are lost in this and who should be spending less time thinking about war and grandeur and more time thinking about helping girls to feel good. I'm actually not that comfortable calling women girls, but she's using the term, so that's what I'm going to do. The pre-chorus, very Madonna style pre-chorus. When a girl feels good, it makes the world go round. When the night feels young, she feels pretty. A girl feels good, the world goes round. Turn your love up to keep the devil down. When a girl feels good, you'll know. I love it. I love it. That line right there, of all the lyrics on this album, I think that's my favorite because it's like a lot of anxiety, a lot of wars, a lot of murder, a lot of abuse. How many more words can I use that'll get me demonetized? A lot of abuse comes from the fact that men are terrified of not having girls feel good, of not knowing how to please a woman, right? A lot of time is spent by young men thinking, I'll never know how to do this. I'll never be able to do this. And this is the best piece of advice you can give. When a girl feels good, you'll know. Don't care about it, but don't try to analyze it and try and say, this is the thing I'm going to do. This is going to be precisely right. It's demanding for a kind of attentive intuitiveness, which is actually necessary if you are a man trying to figure, Jesus Christ, I cannot finish that sentence. But you know how I was going to end that sentence. Welcome to Sex Talk with Professor Sky. Line 1. Perfect Stranger is a song all about the ABC sitcom from the 80s about Balky Bartokomous and his cousin Larry. Balky moves from the... That's not what it's actually about. It sounds pretty tough up there. I might have to pause it. There's nothing I can do. This happens sometimes. When your kid has a cold, you just got to have one parent on them so the other parent can do other stuff. This is what I'm doing. Not that you have to like this video, but that wouldn't hurt. Perfect Stranger is super upbeat. Again, oompa, oompa, oompa. I love it. I love it. I love this music. I love oompa. I love oomp, 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 oomp. I just love it. I love how oddly muted the sound is. And this is, a great ode to anonymous sex, basically. I don't know the name of town you're from, your star sign, or the school you failed. True strangers are perfect. I'd rather know nothing than all the lies. That's too sad. That's too sad, FKA. Okay? Is that what I thought her name was when I first reviewed her a couple years ago? It was. I didn't know what FKA meant. So I was like, FKA? Is this like ASAP? Is this like ASAP Rocky and ASAP Ferg? Is FKA like a group of people? So this is a really sad lyric, though. I'd rather know nothing than all the lies. But this is getting to that point that I'm talking about. The paradox, the contradiction of Eusexua is it seems to be kind of against Eusexua because it's a reasonable reaction to the disappointment when you're trying to find those connections, right? Because that's the thing. We're all looking for connections. We're all looking for love. We're all looking for that deeper thing. But there might come a point of time in your life where you think that thing is not possible. And if you make that determination, then it is absolutely in your best interest to go out to a rave and have sex with random dudes. Okay? That's that. If this is not possible, then just, you know what I'm saying? That's great. But it's still sad because this indicates that, look at me being all all heteronormative and all this stuff over here. Oh, I'm going to get some comments. It's okay. I deserve them. I deserve all the smoke. If you think I'm just saying like, oh, this dude's just doing propaganda for monogamy because that's his life choice. It's true. It's my life choice. It is what I think makes me happiest. And maybe it's not best for everybody. Anyways, just give me the person you are tonight. And then I watched the music video and it's all just straight up S&M. And this is just great, right? Because like, S&M is great. For people who enjoy it, it's awesome. And I think a lot more people would enjoy it if it was more mainstream. And like it doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with having a more liberal attitude towards what one does in the bedroom. So I think anything that pushes that forward, whether it's that weird, whatever, the 50 Shades of Grey or whatever. I know there's other problems with that. But, all this kind of stuff, like, just good. Let's just mainstream all this stuff because there's no reason to have any of it taboo, Anyways, Drums of Death is the next song. I love this. This song right here, these drums are just so exciting. Nice, ratty drum machine, these cut-up sounds. Reminds me very positively of like something that maybe Mode Selector would do with the drums. Mode Selector is one of my favorite techno groups. It's really, really catchy. It's funny because it's called Drums of Death. And, the whole album is about the body and about life and about sex. So I don't know why it's called Drums of Death, except for maybe indicating something about this danger of being with random people. Feel hot, feel heavy, F who you want. Crash the system, diva doll, serve cunt, serve violence. I'm trying to work. Hey, how's your first class? Nothing. Nobody. I'm not listening to anything. What are you listening to? I love the way that the chorus is sung and pitched up. It's great. Room of Fools is the next song, which I cannot believe is. I thought the song had to be about an orgy. I thought that's what it had to be about. I don't think it is though. Just great thump, thump, thump. And I love the way, again, like when she sings in a way that sounds kind of poorly, like the way she sings the word, the room of fools, it reminds me of like someone trying to sing something like, wanna be my lover, want to be my love. Like all those like early 90s like house songs with like the anonymous singers who like sing like these lyrics. I'm not the power, This has that like, this room of fools. It has that kind of bombastic energy to it. We'll make something together where open wounds just bleeding out pleasure, and it feels nice. And I love the break after she sings, and the way she sings, it feels nice. And I think if we can do more of a simplistic understanding of what Eusexua means, feels nice. That's a pretty good thing to say here. And there's this weird beat change at the end, or not quite a beat change, but an unexpected change at the end where it's almost a little instrumental bit. And then we get to my favorite song, Sticky. Do you think I'm going to say that this is a cover of Tyler, the Creator? That's such a simple joke. I wouldn't dare make it. And this song I love because this is that turn. This is the thing that indicates, the other side of, not Euphoria, of Eusexua, this downbeat nature, these little faraway notes, little vocoder sounds, such subtle production all the way throughout here. I know Oye Volta is doing a lot of this, which is interesting because he works a lot with the A these days. I love the post-chorus and the cut-up sounds, and this is that vulnerability. And this is what's fascinating, is that this album and its rollout and everything is like mostly naked or almost naked FKA Twigs. And it's this thing about being naked, but then it's the fear of being naked. So there's two different kinds of naked. There's the kind of naked that you are when you're not wearing any clothes. And then there's the kind of naked that you are when you are vulnerable with somebody. And this album is all about the former at the expense of the latter. So saying tried to F you with the lights on, but it hurts so bad to shed my skin with you watching. It makes me shy, count to 1, 2, 3 and show my vulnerability. So I love it, because it's here she is showing everything to the whole world and saying that she's afraid to take her clothes off. And it's that contradiction of wanting this, but instead just, and just the way it breaks down, just this madness at the end. There's very Yeezus-y sounds on this album, nice kind of rattiness to it, which I really enjoy. Keep it, hold it, kind of Baroque sounds to start off, repeating loop on a keyboard. Sometimes I feel empty where I lay. Again, for an album that is ostensibly about this like self-help, somatic healing, healing through the body, there's a lot of sadness that's mentioned in here. What have I got to do? Just keep it walking, just keep it walking. Kind of jungle drum beat here. Super high voices trilling. Childlike things. Okay, so this song kind of came out of nowhere. Kind of Spice Girls-y? Like the way that she raps on this reminds me of like a kind of Spice Girls-y rap. It's very fun melody, bum 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 bum. It's pretty unclear what she's singing, but I have some thoughts here. I love the house piano. First of all, she says, "Where the wild things are, I will be." Like lost in a world of childlike things and fantasies. First of all, I want to say something. Maurice Sendak is the name of the author who made Where the Wild Things Are, and it's a beautifully drawn book. But he can just fuck right off. Never read that book to your kids. Book is poison. Do not send your kids to bed without dinner. That's abuse. Don't do it. Sorry, everybody. That whole book, it's ruined, okay? Throw it in the trash. It's beautifully drawn. I love that book growing up. But you don't send your kid to bed without dinner. You don't. That's how you have kids with screwed up sense of attachment, okay? because they don't feel safe. Where the wild things are. Why does it have to be such a well-drawn and conceived book? Still, cancel Maurice Sendak, okay? You want to know how based I am? You never even thought to cancel Maurice Sendak. Well, I am. If you don't know, the whole book is about someone who goes off to bed without dinner and then hallucinates from hunger pains. And the whole idea is that the mom's okay. Anyways, sidebar over. And then, what I love about this album is sometimes it's just so compact. Like they get you going, like boom, 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 you know, boom, boom. And then there's like a 43 seconds in, we get a quiet moment, and we talk about this world of childlike things. Now, I love this theme because, that's, when I was a child, I played with childish things, and then I became a man, and I put away my childish things. I think that's what this is a reference to, which is, said in every single bar mitzvah ever. Although I think it's in the Old Testament. I don't know. But I'm very interested in the idea, because I'm interested in what makes an adult. So I like this idea. And then we have Northwest rapping in Japanese. Now, some people said, Sky, are you going to comment on the fact that there's a minor rapping on an album called Eusexua with very sexual themes? No, I'm not going to. This song is not in that thematics. This is a song about other stuff. I have no problem with that. I do have some thoughts about Northwest and about this verse, though. So let's talk about that. First of all, any child who grows up with a private jet is cursed. Like, there's such a thing as growing up too rich. That is a curse. You should not wish that on your worst enemy, Like, someone even in a, like, lower middle class with loving family would be way better off than having that kind of access to wealth with completely out to lunch parents on different continents. So I'm never going to look at, I don't know, Willow Smith or Northwest and just think they're too privileged to have any pain. God damn. Seriously. Seriously, it's a terrible thing. I've known people who have worked for people who have that much money, and it is just there's just no happiness. I'm not saying that those people should not be taxed at a 99% bracket. They should be. I'm not saying they should be pitied, but I'm saying those children. So anyways, and then she raps in Japanese, which is kind of cool because, she lives in Japan now, I guess, because she's with Kanye, because I guess he's making a new album, which I guess is probably going to be great because he's fucking Kanye. And it doesn't matter what he does, he's going to keep doing good stuff, except for Vultures too. But I do have a problem with these lyrics. The lyrics translated into English are like, hello, konnichiwa, and from California to Tokyo. Like, okay. And then she's like, Jesus is king and Christ is Lord and stuff. And it's like, that's colonial. It's a colonial verse. Do you know what percentage of Japan is Christian? 1% of Japan is Christian. So this is like weird. Like, so imagine if you're Japanese and you hear this song and you're like, oh, cool. First we had Megan Thee Stallion rapping in Japanese because she loves anime so much. Now we have Kanye West's daughter rapping in Japanese. This is great. And it's just like proselytizing some god that is like a complete fringe religion in my culture, trying to get me to worship some other god. So anyways, there's my odd point. Have sympathy for her, but also, hey, whoever's in charge of this album, why are we trying to tell Japanese people to worship Jesus? I mean, that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, unless you think like missionary stuff is the point, in which case that you're probably not listening to Eusexua. There's the Venn diagram of people who think that the best thing to do is to go to other cultures and try to convert them to your religion, and people who want to listen to Eusexua. There's probably not much overlap in that Venn diagram. Maybe my second favorite song is Strip Tease. Again, it's the great sleazy sound, just the way her voice is ups and downs and these beeps and just how, like, what's it going to be? Like this vulnerable, is it like going to be vulnerable nudity or the violent nudity? Is it going to be the powerful nudity or the powerless nudity? And at a certain point, she even starts singing like the Cranberries, like the super high vocals. And if you've seen the video, so the video, I don't want to know this, but I know that the video was directed by her current boyfriend. I don't want to know that. I don't want to know this stuff. But I do know that. So now you know that too. So I'm sorry. That kind of biography, that's not part of the paratext, okay? That's not what she's giving us. That happens to be true, okay? But that's, anyways. It's like her running, okay. It's her running through a tunnel. And like not really doing a striptease, but like losing layers of her clothes and dancing in traffic. Now, first of all, I think she owes Billie Eilish a check because this is very similar to the NDA video, which was a great video of her dancing around with cars all over the place and creating that kind of tension. Even has some kind of similar basic imagery. It's also very unsettling. The first people in the car are speaking French, which makes me feel like they're in a French tunnel, which makes me think of Princess Di, because Princess Di died in a French tunnel. But anyways, I don't think that's intentional. But it's a great video because it's sort of like the rest of the album, like her nudity is always unsettling on some level, something about the way that she looks. And so her video like turns into this like blob of flesh and hair. And we have this whole thing. Opening me feels like a striptease, silk for my tears and lace for my fears. I'm stripping my heart till my pain disappears. Opening me feels like a striptease. So I think that's it, right? I think she's trying to reach the point where she can go beyond Eusexua to the kind of place where she can show off her birthmark. Because this line is goofy, but I love it. I've got a birthmark on my mind. And I think you'll like it. 24-Hour Dog. Okay. Got some R2-D2 core music going on here. This bleeping and blooping. Also a little bit of like the synthesizers on the song Within by Daft Punk. I'm a dog for you. I was like, oh, cool. Is this going to be like the Stooges, Now I want to be your dog. But then it just gets more and more sexual. What I love is how the music is so subtle in opposition to the lyrics, right? Because this is just a pure, like, the joy of debasement and of being submissive in an S&M relationship. It's true, I'm just this way for you. I bend more than what I thought was possible. Me in shapes to make you pleased. It eases up my mind and helps me leave my power behind. Because, that's... Not to play junior psychologist here, but this is just a fact. Like a lot of the people who really enjoy being in a subservient or submissive position in an S&M situation are people who have a lot of power in their life, who have a lot of autonomy, and that kind of like that pressure that comes with having a lot of power and a lot of autonomy and a lot of control, that's the thing you want to give up. Like, that's where you derive the pleasure. So it's not just like hot, sexy stuff. It's also a pretty good illustration of like, oh yeah, that makes sense why people like doing that, Wanderlust is the next song. This is probably my least favorite song. I don't know. I like it. The guitar reminds me a lot of Song of the Siren. The This Mortal Coil version, not the Tim Buckley version, or the 070 Shake version. But it has more of just kind of a pop feel to it than the rest of the album. So, I mean, I like the pop stuff, but again, I want it to be more kind of Ray of Lighty, but that's fine. This album's way too long. It's interesting, she's talking about the album being too long, See me when I'm here, but I'm lost in the pure wanderlust. Hold me tight when the sky's not enough. Give me pure wanderlust. I think this is the same basic idea of a lot of this album. You know, wanderlust is when you like want to just keep traveling, like you just have this need, this desire to keep traveling. And again, it's perhaps fleeing from this. Okay? It's perhaps fleeing from this kind of sense of togetherness. Sorry, if you're just watching the video, you don't know what I'm doing. I'm putting my hands together to indicate the kind of deep human connection that provides a sort of joy that cannot be obtained by kissing strangers. And then the post-chorus is nice, though, this Ye-style auto-tune and then this full Madonna like house drums in the back with her just kind of like singing. And so there it is. You know, that's the whole album. I really enjoyed it. I think that the theme of what Eusexua is, these are my Patreons. I still can't find one of the other sheets for my Patreons. I'm going to keep looking, though. I'm going to keep looking because you're still here. There, I found it. So I like this theory. I like what she's trying to do. I think, you know, I talk a lot about words on this channel. I have a dictionary of etymology that I keep nearby me at all times. And I think creating new words is very important. And even though this word is comprised of themes and you know, this whole album is comprised of themes I've heard before, I think the confusion and the difficulty of pinning down one specific meaning hints at the richness of the concept. All right. Oh, you want to see my dogs? They were pretty quiet today. Unlike the baby upstairs. There's Bo. Bo, are you in a state of Eusexua? I don't think Bo's ever in a state of Eusexua. Toby, though. Toby's full of Eusexua. Aren't you, Toby? Who's a good boy? All right. Until next time, tell me in the comments, I didn't say anything like too weird, did I? Hope not. Oh, you might be wondering about this. When I put my daughter to bed, I sometimes put her bow in my hair because at the end of the day, you know, my hair flops down. I don't like having floppy doppy hair. And I'd rather look like Rosita from Sesame Street. There's the camera.